Ubuntu Pro images, and then that will give you everything you need, along with all our security patching, compliance automation with system hardening such as DSStig and CIS benchmarks, and other great features. But this webinar is more about FIPS, so I won't go into too many details. So I'll talk a bit about what the modules are, what exactly we got certified and why, and hopefully that will give you some insights into our approach. So these are the modules that we have certified for Ubuntu 22.04. Now it kind of starts with a Linux distribution at the Linux kernel. That's the beating heart of the system. Now the kernel provides several functions in Linux. One of the main ones, which is a very important point for cryptography, is the source of random numbers. So this is actually a really important part of any crypto implementation, and particularly within FIPS. The source of random data for the system is crucial, because cryptography is all about someone not being able to guess what your data is because you've encrypted it. And if someone can guess it because they know you have a weak random number source, then it kind of undermines the whole architecture. So that's why the random number source in the FIPS setup has to be validated as well as part of the NIST process. So this is what the kernel will provide. It provides its entry source for the random numbers, and it also provides its own crypto API, such as for things like secure boot and when the system is coming up. Then on the more user space aspects, which people deal with, if you're running applications such as web servers or databases or something, they will be taking advantage of the user space crypto libraries. So we've taken the most popular libraries within the Ubuntu ecosystem, the ones which most applications will use out of the box. The famous one is OpenSSL. I think most people have probably heard of that. We also use libgcrypt and GNU-TLS. So those are the three sort of main user space crypto libraries that most applications within Ubuntu will be able to use. And so we've obviously prepared these and turned them into FIPS certified versions. We've also used a FIPS version of StrongSwan. So this is an IPsec client. And yes, so we were obviously, if people want to take advantage of VPNs in a FIPS scenario, then you can use StrongSwan. It's worth noting that as much as possible, we actually try to not certify too many libraries with FIPS because it is quite intrusive and time consuming. So the way we do this is we certify these set of libraries and then get other applications to use the FIPS certified crypto within it, which means that you don't then have to certify the other application. So for instance, I've listed OpenSSH here. It's a very commonly used SSH server and client, and we haven't needed to FIPS certify it because we link against the OpenSSL, which is certified, and use the crypto within OpenSSL, which means that we don't then have to certify OpenSSH. And this is actually the way that we'd recommend anyone who wants to do crypto operations on an Ubuntu system. You do this, you link against the certified version of the library, and it means you don't then need to recertify your own application because you can just link against and use the application which has been certified. And this is also the case with other VPNs such as OpenVPN and things that will again use OpenSSL. So that's why we've selected a minimum set here, because it provides the most broad coverage within Ubuntu, and that means that everything else can kind of build on top of those certified components. We also tried to enable different hardware platforms through the FIPS process. So obviously everyone's been using Intel AMD x86 64 for many years now. And this has sort of been a mainstay of what people have been doing for the last 15, 20 years. But especially in the cloud and on Azure, ARM64 is becoming very popular these days for obvious reasons. It's the performance, the power benefits, the instruction tests are well set up for certain workloads. So we try to then enable this platform as well. So this requires a different build of the components, a different kernel. And yeah, we've got this certification for FIPS with ARM64 on Ubuntu 22, which you can fully take advantage of on Azure. Now, when it comes to the cloud platforms, we make actually we work very closely with our our cloud partners such as Joel to ensure that the kernels that we produce with the Ubuntu on the cloud is optimized for that, because Microsoft will obviously prepare specific hardware configurations, and they want their customers to be able to take advantage of all the latest hardware features, the performance, the security, etc. So we prepare optimized kernels for the clouds, and again we provide FIPS versions of these optimized kernels as well. We did actually also provide the IBM Z15 certification for FIPS, but I don't think this is available on Azure at the moment. So I think it's probably also worth talking a little bit about the updates process. So traditionally, when you get a module FIPS certified, an exact version of the module is tested, and then that's the only one that, in theory, should be allowed to be used. But this has proven problematic over the years because, unfortunately, as we know, security vulnerabilities are discovered in software. Any software of any sort needs to be, have a robust process against security vulnerabilities, and that's exactly what companies such as Canonical and Microsoft do. We produce software. If we discover an issue with the software that's already been deployed, we will then issue a fix, a security patch, and then deploy the patch, and then all the users of the software can download the patch and they can be secure against the vulnerability. And obviously this, this affects the FIPS certified crypto modules as well. Now, there's obviously a bit of a tension between wanting to use FIPS certified crypto, which is an exact version but might be some years old, against needing to be up to date with your security vulnerabilities. And the way we do this is we provide a sort of a FIPS updates method to consume the FIPS modules, whereby we apply the security fix, but we do not touch the FIPS code itself, because we apply that in a kind of a layered patch setup. So we can keep the security updates separate from the FIPS code. And that means that we can assert that we haven't modified the FIPS functionality from the exact certified binaries. And indeed, the latest FedRAMP guidelines that were issued in January of this year very much recommended that if vendors provide a FIPS update service, then that customers should take advantage of this. So that's exactly what we've been doing with our FIPS updates. And now if you use an Azure Ubuntu Pro FIPS image, then it will be pre-configured with those FIPS updates to make sure that you get the best of both worlds. You get the the functionality which is FIPS approved, and then you can also get those security updates, because it's absolutely critical that the updates are applied. So I think I will now hand over and we can get some more information about exactly how FIPS works on Azure.
Okay. So can you hear me? Audio check's good. Excellent. Outstanding. So Henry, thanks for leading off here. One of the things I kind of want to really just kind of focus on today is the partnership between Canonical and Microsoft, specifically in Azure. Henry kind of touched upon it, that when we take a look at our distros that we support today in Azure, we have what we consider endorsed distros, and what that means is it provides a really full life cycle for the product itself. So as Henry mentioned, if there's any updates that are needed from a kernel perspective, we will both of our engineering teams will work to make those updates to the kernel, get them approved through the community, whatever organizations that they need to be approved on. And then once the distro is ready, the next version is ready to be brought into Azure, our engineering teams then ingest that. We will go through our own validation tests and move forward. And this is important too, right, from a scaling perspective, right? And in that scaling perspective, one of the things we need to worry about is just, you know, dealing with the ability to have visibility into updates, how quickly we can get those systems updated, and then taking it to the next step once you go ahead and deploy and you're using, you know, Ubuntu at that point. Let's say you have an issue, right? There's multiple areas from the support perspective. So Microsoft and Canonical have an integrated support system with Ticket Exchange, right? So, you know, I always like to joke around, you don't have to sit there and call two different organizations to try to get the same problem solved. Our organizations on the back end will work with you to get that issue resolved for you. So I've always felt that was very important, because that's something that we do not have with a lot of distros out there. And so with that being said, you know, when we think about Ubuntu, and one of the things a lot of people don't understand too, because a lot of people think about Azure, they don't think initially Linux, but, you know, kind of report, which is public now, 65% of our cores today are running a Linux workload, and Ubuntu is significant in that area for us, hence the reason the partnership and, you know, just having the chance here to talk. And when we start to think about and looking towards the future, right, from a FIPS perspective, and we kind of mentioned, right, where today Azure, when we look at our clouds, we're supporting -2 across our entire platform. We are now working to move forward towards that date that we're all working against, and to get our platform to be compliant with 140-3. So just something to think about, right? Because one of the things, as we, you know, Henry mentioned at the beginning, you kind of deploy something, what's the impact to your existing, right? So I think going new, it's, you know, that's pretty easy to manage, but with the existing, right, that's always going to be a challenge. And that's one of the things that we're doing, you know, within the company, to make sure that all of our other services are compliant as well. And kind of just mentioned too, I think, and this will kind of lead into the next part of the conversation of the images that Anara will take over, but we really try to simplify the landscape from an update perspective. Because I think when we start to think about scale, when we're looking at, right, when we're looking with talking about compliance, you know, we talk about that, you know, version, you know, drift, right? And that's a challenge that we all run into when we're running thousands and thousands of systems, right? And so we have the capability to take a look, be able to provide, you know, the tooling from an audit perspective, you know, from an update management perspective, to help keep your systems updated and compliant to the needs that you have, depending on your clouds that you're using. Bernard? Did we lose Anara?
Oh, I think she's coming back.
She's back.
Wrong button click, but.
So I'm going to kind of go while Anara's joining back in. Kind of okay, she's there. So I think I'll have to post here, you know, maybe afterwards, you know, the webinar here is the links that I have here in the slide. Not sure if they're clickable here, you know, for the folks, but it's really the 3 landings, you know, places, you know, with all the documentation that's out there. This will kind of help you kind of figure out the capabilities that are on Azure today. So Nara, I'm going to let you take over.
Thank you. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. My apologies. I have a connection issue, and it just dropped. But thank you, Joe and Henry, for presenting everything. This is very useful information for me as well. I learned a lot. Before covering Ubuntu Pro on the public cloud, I'm going to skip to the next slide. So following on what Henry and Joe just presented, with our partnership with Microsoft, something we did was to create pre-built images available on the Azure Marketplace. So if you need Ubuntu Pro FIPS with 2204 with the FIPS updates, you can have the image ready for you to start using directly on Azure. If you check the attachments tab here, you're going to have access to this link. But more than that, we also have minimal images with CIS hardening, which is very important for some of our customers working with public sector as well. Because they are minimal images, we are decreasing the chances of an attack or something like that, because they're going to be hardened for CIS and better for your environment as well, if that's the case. If you have any questions about the images, you can reach out to us at any time. Something new that we have on Azure is confidential VMs. So we have confidential GPUs and CPUs available on Azure. The confidential GPUs, they're optimized for AI environments. So we have the pre-built images as well already for confidential VMs, and it's all available on the Azure Marketplace. In case you're using Ubuntu LTS today or an Ubuntu without a FIPS version on Azure, and you would like to upgrade to Ubuntu Pro to have access to FIPS and 140-3, FIPS 140-3, you can do an in-place upgrade directly via Azure Marketplace, via Azure CLI, I'm sorry. So this is the process on how you can do the in-place upgrade from Ubuntu LTS, Ubuntu Server to Ubuntu Pro. And to enable FIPS, you need to make sure that you do sudo pro enable FIPS updates. This way you're going to have an image with Ubuntu Pro, but also with FIPS enabled and FIPS 140-3 in case you're using the version 2204. In case you're using Ubuntu Server 2004, you would have to upgrade to 2204, but I'm talking about Server, not Pro, and then do the FIPS update on that image. We have this information here as well on the attachments in case you want to review it. And if you have any questions, we are going to have some time at the end to cover. Going back to that slide now, we did cover all the great things about FIPS. We did cover the security maintenance that we have with Ubuntu Pro. But when you upgrade to Ubuntu Pro, you not only have FIPS, but we also have some other security and compliance tooling available for you. So Ubuntu Pro includes up to 12 years of expanded security maintenance for your software supply chain, for your infrastructure, and also for over 25,000 open source applications running on top of Ubuntu. So if you're using the version 140, if you're using Ubuntu 2004, for example, that's approaching the end of security maintenance in 2025, and you upgrade to Ubuntu Pro, you are going to have access to FIPS, but you're also going to have access to the 12 years of security maintenance. You are not going to have to keep upgrading your software to have security maintenance. Ubuntu Pro is available on Azure with pay-as-you-go metered pricing. So if you do an in-place upgrade, it's going to be metered pricing. There's not going to be a huge surprise for you. You can use the Azure calculator to estimate the price, and that's going to count towards your Azure agreement, your Mac agreement. If you currently have a Mac agreement with Microsoft and you have discounts, for example, on this Mac agreement, the discount should apply to in-place upgrades. I would recommend you to talk to your Microsoft sales rep, your account manager, ATS, to double check, but it should apply as well, which is something great for some of our customers that have Mac agreements. We also have an option for optional phone and ticket support. So if you need access to the Canonical support team, if you need tier 3 support because your organization requires that, we have an option for you to purchase phone and ticket support also via Azure Marketplace and counting towards your Azure agreement. So these are some very good benefits that we have with Ubuntu Pro on Azure, but also on the other public clouds. That's what we had. We are going to open it now for questions. If you have any questions, anybody would like to follow up with us via email, you can send an email to us.gov@canonical.com. There you're going to have access. You're going to be able to talk to our team, to our public sector specialists who will be able to help you. But I'm going to open it for questions now. Thank you all.
Okay, so we've had a question about the upgrade process in more detail. So I guess there are a couple of aspects that we need to mention here. So I'm thinking of the case where someone has a deployment of, say, Ubuntu 2004 with the older FIPS 140-2 crypto modules on, and like Joel was saying, if you want to upgrade this and take advantage of the later certification process. So I think first up there's the upgrading of the Ubuntu instance, and then there's making sure that the Pro thing is still working. So I think if you've got Ubuntu Pro through Azure, then that doesn't really care about which version of Ubuntu you're running. You have access to all the same security and compliance benefits with any version of Ubuntu if you're using Ubuntu Pro. And if you're using one of the Pro images that Inara mentioned on Azure, then again, that I think that entitlement should still be applicable across the different versions. I think if you want to upgrade the FIPS, the recommended way to do it is actually to disable the FIPS and then do a release upgrade and then re-enable FIPS just to make sure that the compatibility works. But if you have any specific questions, then like Inara mentioned, you can always reach out to the support teams.
Yeah, do you have any questions on YouTube or LinkedIn? No questions. Okay.